I believe if you are trying to avoid AI, then you're going to be in big trouble. It's going to be difficult to come to terms with this, but it's really important because if you put all of the emphasis on your creative output, then you will get left behind. You will come to a point where AI can replicate your skills and clients can even replicate your skills. More than ever now, people will be craving authenticity. People will be craving real life connections. And if they just see you as a skill set, those things are going to be redundant very, very quickly. So if we're going to avoid AI taking our jobs, your number one objective should be trying to get the AI to In today's episode of the Creative Courage podcast, I want to talk about AI. Now, I'm not going to be getting too complex into AI because I'm not an AI expert. I'm not going to be talking about the singularity or general artificial intelligence. I want to talk about AI and its role in the creative industries, specifically how I believe AI is going to replace certain tasks in your business and what you need to do in order to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that your business and your job isn't replaced. So if you follow the AI news, you'll know that a lot of things have been changing recently. Now, by the time this episode comes out, there'll be even more things that have been released. There'll be even more advances in AI, but I believe we are really at the beginning of something significant, which is really comparative to the birth of the internet. And the scary thing about it is that it's happening so quickly. I believe if you are trying to avoid AI or you have a negative perception of it, like you just hate it and you think that we should stop using it, then you're going to be in big trouble because I really see this is not going anywhere. The only thing that's going to slow down AI is regulation and user uptake. So if things start moving too fast and some people don't feel comfortable with that, and we get a feeling that we're not safe or secure anymore, then the uptake will slow. And obviously in fields like medicine and finance and things like that, there are lots of regulations, and there will be regulations that are imposed by governing bodies and by governments. So that may slow the uptake, but I think the creative industries is one of the industries that will be impacted the most. So let's start with kind of zooming out a little bit. And I like to use comparisons through history. And so one of the things that I remember is like my cousin used to work in the print industry, and he was one of the first people I ever saw to have a Mac. And it was one of those Macs with the kind of see-through back part. And they were all different colors. And I remember going into his office and seeing that Mac and seeing what he was doing with the print. And there was a time when Photoshop and other software like this started to come out, and it changed the way that people were basically manipulating graphics, playing with graphics. And it happened relatively quickly. And now my cousin decided that he didn't actually want to be in print anymore, because of the way that it was moving. He didn't want to upskill and learn Photoshop and learn all of this software. And so he actually quit and pivoted totally. And then he trained to be an electrician, and he is now a manager at Ernst & Young, and he's a facilities manager there, and he loves his job. The reason I'm telling you that story is because I believe this is going to happen again, but on a much more rapid scale. We're going to start to see these technologies coming out that literally make people's jobs or make people's skill sets totally redundant. So this like one skill set that we've been training for all our life to be an incredible graphic designer, all of a sudden AI is going to be able to replicate that, and it's going to be able to take inspiration from different styles, and literally, you know, a 5-year-old child with no graphic design skills is going to be able to describe what it wants to see, and AI is going to be able to create it. And it pretty much can already do that, right? So the big idea, or the sort of first concept that I want to share, is that, like I said in my book that's coming out in September, as creatives, we've got to understand that our value is not in our creative output. And I think it's a difficult concept to get your head around for a few reasons. Number one, we spend a lot of time training for that. Like when I trained to be a photographer and I got really good at photography, in particular nightlife photography, which is a very specific form of photography, I remember the feeling of like, oh, I've mastered this skill set now. Like my images look like this guy I've been following or this guy who's been mentoring me for the last few years. Like they're kind of comparative and I can do these creative things and I can create this effect and it's really cool. So there is a sense of pride and also a sense that we've invested a lot of time and energy into this particular skill set. So to then say somebody can come along or an AI can come along and just replicate that instantly is difficult. It's difficult to let go of our ego that doesn't want that to be the case. It's difficult to let go of this idea of the sunk cost fallacy. Like, you know, we've invested this time and this energy and this money into this thing, and now you're basically saying that anybody can do it. The barrier to entry is lowered. So I understand that this is not the kind of thing that I'm just going to say on this podcast, like, hey, you should realize that the value isn't just in your creative output and you're going to go, okay, cool, and move on. Like it's going to be difficult to come to terms with this, but it's really important because if you put all of the emphasis on your creative output, then you will get left behind. You will come to a point where AI can replicate your skills and clients can even replicate your skills. Like, why do we need this person to design this landing page? We can use this AI tool that analyzes thousands and thousands of landing pages and figures out what is the best conversion in this particular niche. And it's going to design it in that way. And so we can't really compete with that. And so I think if you're trying to compete with that, then you're going to get left behind. So the first big idea is that the value isn't in the creative output. And so you might be asking, well, what is it in? And I actually did another episode on this podcast about this idea that we are all in a unique position to solve a problem for someone. Now, if you extrapolate this far enough into the future, we genuinely can't see round the corner. There really is an inflection point right now where I don't know what the world is going to look like. I don't think anybody knows what the world is going to look like if AI continues to evolve at the pace that it's evolving at. But what I will say is for the foreseeable future, and when I say foreseeable future, I'm really talking about like the next 12, 18, 24 months. It's really, really important to understand how what has happened to you in your life puts you in a unique position to solve a problem for someone. More than ever now, people will be craving authenticity. People will be craving real life connections. And if they just see you as a skill set, i.e., you know, this person on Fiverr or this person on Upwork designs something and that's how they sell themselves. I'm a graphic designer. I can create amazing landing pages. Those things are going to be redundant very, very quickly. So I don't want you to get left behind. I don't want you to struggle and realize all of a sudden you don't have a job, because not only is it difficult from a financial perspective, but it's also difficult from a fulfillment perspective. I know a lot of us as creatives get a lot of fulfillment from the work that we do. And if all of a sudden we're replaced by an AI, that could be quite detrimental to our mental health. And so for me, my life changed when I looked back through my life and I looked at all of the things that had happened to me, the good and the bad. And I asked myself, who could the lessons from these events be valuable for? Now, I'm not suggesting we're all of a sudden teachers, but what I am suggesting is that you have unique insights based on where you live in the world, how you were brought up, who you met, what university, school, college you went to, who you hung out with, what experiences you had, right? All of these things give you a unique filter in the world. And I believe that business is going to be craving that more and more. It's going to be craving this kind of authenticity, this realness, this human element to business. Because if we can have these AI agents that are out there working autonomously on our behalf, doing those tasks, creating web pages, building apps for us, designing things, whatever it is, creating content, then as humans, I think we're going to be craving other humans and other human connection. So my invitation to you is to really think seriously about how your business is currently positioned in the market. Is it positioned as a commodity? Is it positioned as a skill set? i.e., do you call yourself a graphic designer, a branding expert, videographer, whatever it is. Because if you do, I think you're going to be in a lot of trouble very soon. So the opposite of this is something I talk about called the 4 Ps of positioning. And I talk about this in my new book, which I mentioned is coming out in September. And the 4 Ps of positioning are as follows. Number 1 is, who is the person that you are uniquely positioned to help? So that's the first P. Who are you uniquely positioned to help? And when I say person, I genuinely mean like the founders of early stage tech startups that have seed round funding, like really specific. So for me, it's like my person is award-winning creative studios or award-winning creatives, right? That is like the person that I'm uniquely positioned to help. That's the P. What is the problem that you're going to solve? That's the second P. What is the specific problem that you believe you are in a unique position to solve? So for me, although I solve lots of problems, the number 1 problem that I believe that I solve for people is lack of confidence. That's what I really believe I give people. The problem I solve is a lack of confidence. And it could be a lack of confidence in your offer. It could be a lack of confidence in your sales. It could be a general lack of confidence in yourself. Everybody I've worked with over the last 10 years, when I interview them and when I have case study conversations, the one thing that they all tell me is I just feel so much more confident now. I feel so much more confident to pitch for this 5-figure project. I feel so much more confident. Like, I don't know if you listen to the podcast with Sergey, for example. Like when I first met him, he was considering getting a job because he didn't have the confidence in his business. He didn't have the confidence in his ability to go out there and create value in the world and get paid for it. But now he does. Now he would never consider getting a job because he's confident in the value that he can bring. So that is the problem that I'm solving. You'll see that in lots of different ways because, and I'll talk about this in a minute, there's a difference between positioning and messaging, right? So the positioning is the 4 Ps. Messaging is how you kind of talk about that. But let me finish the 4 Ps first so I don't go off on a complete tangent. So number 1 is the person. Number 2 is the problem, right? What is the problem that I'm actually solving? Number 3, on the flip side of that, is what is the promise? What are you actually giving people? So in my case, it's obvious, right? I'm giving them more confidence. I'm giving them the confidence or the courage, like the theme of this podcast, to ask for more. I'm giving the confidence or the courage to go out there and approach people and ask them if they need help. Like I'm giving them the confidence to speak, like whatever it is, right? So the promise that I'm making is you will have more confidence in yourself, in your business, in your ability, in your pricing, in your positioning, whatever it is. Okay, so that's the promise. And then the 4th P is your process. How do you actually get people that result? How do you actually help them avoid that problem that they're currently experiencing or that pain that they're currently experiencing? What is the process you take them through? What is the step-by-step process? So if we're going to avoid AI taking our jobs, we have to be positioned as a creative problem solver and as a partner for our clients, not as a skill set. Now, this has been true for a while, and this is what distinguishes the best from the average. This is what takes the top 10% and makes them the top 1%. And this is the kind of work that I do with my clients. But now it's gone from being a differentiator from 10% to 1%. I think it's now a 0 to 1. I think it's if you don't do this now, you will be a 0. You will be replaced by AI. Your business will be seen as a commodity, and someone will be able to get that same service for $25 a month. Now, this might be a controversial episode because you might be listening to this thinking, nah, mate, I don't believe you. I don't think that's how it's going to go. Or I'm not just going to all of a sudden forget the fact that I spent 10 years to get incredibly good at graphic design. Or maybe you're like an audio engineer or a filmmaker and you just think, it's not quite there yet. AI is not going to replace that. I can't quite do this. It doesn't have the human element. I promise you, based on what I have seen, based on some people that I've been speaking to who are immersed in this world, it will be there very soon. And I would suggest that rather than getting obsessed with the skill set that you've built, doing, I guess, kind of what my cousin did, right? Being okay with letting that go and saying, well, I trained in print and I know a lot about Macs and whatever, but I don't want to train in Photoshop and I'm going to do this instead. Like that's totally an option. It's totally okay to pivot. And I do think that we are going to see a lot of people with much, much shorter, we call them these kind of portfolio careers, right? We're doing this for a couple of years, then we're doing that, then we're doing that. Now, I know as creatives, we do that anyway, right? So topic for a whole nother podcast. But that is one way to approach this, is to be nimble and pivot and be okay with letting go of what you've built and what you've learned, just a little bit like anything. And that's actually a chapter in my third book. And this is not a promo or a plug, I promise. My second book is coming out in September, and I'm in the process of writing my third book. But my third book is going to be the title of this podcast, Creative Courage. And it's going to be like all these different micro chapters. And one of the chapters is the idea, the courage to let go. It takes a lot of courage to let go of something that you invested time, money, and energy into. Now, you might not like this idea because it's not a very popular idea and it's very difficult to do. So it is just one option. The second option, I believe, is to use AI. So to train yourself in that skill set of AI, be at the very cutting edge, constantly be trying out new tools, constantly be learning how to interact with AI to get the kind of output that you want, and use your taste and use your judgment to analyze the output to figure out if it's good enough. And your number one objective should be trying to get the AI to create output which is on par with your existing skill set. Because if you can do that, then number one, you are able to deliver what just took you maybe, 2 weeks or 2 days or whatever it is, depending on what you're creating, right? It just took you half the time. So you've just saved a bunch of time, got the same creative output. The next advantage of that is you can spend more time in the problem-solving phase. I think as creatives, one of our biggest challenges is trying to communicate all of the work that goes around actually delivering that creative output. So let's say you're a branding consultant or you're a branding agency, right? It's communicating the value of everything that goes in to making the logo, to creating the brand guidelines, to actually creating that output and getting people to see, well, how I could get someone on Fiverr here says they'll do me brand guidelines for $20. Why are you saying it's going to cost me 20 grand? Right? That's part of the hardest thing. And so I believe AI is going to give us more time and more scope to actually work on that, because we spend less time messing around with the creative output and we can spend more time on the stuff that we know actually moves the needle, which in, say, like a branding example is the market research. It's the audience personas, it's the positioning, it's all of that stuff that actually gets you to the point where you can confidently create a brand that represents that company's values, for example. In the website development, it's not just, okay, great, what's going to make this look pretty? What's going to keep the client happy? It's like, what's the user journey? How do people get here? What's the message that you want to convey? How do you want people to feel when they land on this website? Like, all of these things are really important. And I think that is the human element. That's still the thing that we have, which is different from AI. We can program AI to help with that stuff. We can program AI to do the market research for us. We can put the audience persona into AI and tell it to build something that this person would find emotionally moving or whatever, right? We can do those things, but we are still the ones kind of doing the creative thinking for now. Once it gets to the point where AI does the creative thinking and, there's a whole different topic and the singularity and all of that stuff, like once we get to that point, then we're all in trouble. Like, I don't know what life looks like when there is a kind of higher intelligent species that is able to think and feel and rationalize and make decisions the same way we are, and it has control. Like, that's kind of a scary thought. I don't think there's point sort of planning for that, because I don't think that anybody knows what that looks like. I don't think we're guaranteed to get there. So that's kind of pointless. But what I am confident of is that AI is getting to the point where it can do things very quickly, faster than humans, to a similar, if not better, level of creative output. And if you are not willing to accept that and you try to fight it, you will be in big trouble. So you've got two options. Number one is you pivot and do something else, although I do believe that pretty much every industry is going to be impacted by AI. Number two, what I think is the most sensible option is that you learn it and you learn how to interact with it and program it to replicate creative output that is on the same level that you are currently creating. And that is your number one priority. And you use it to make cool stuff that doesn't exist and maybe that you couldn't think of or couldn't come up with on your own. So that is my recommendation. That is how I believe you can stop AI taking your job, or you can stop AI majorly disrupting your business. This might be slightly controversial, this episode, so I know not everyone's going to love it, but I think it's really important to talk about, especially with the advances that I've seen recently, and I've been playing around with AI. I'm going all in on AI. One of the things that I think is amazing about AI is the fact that it can now basically do one-to-one coaching. Like, it can take a lot of the work that I do, and it can create a very similar level of impact and do a lot of the implementation for clients, which would have taken a long time. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about where it can take the industry. And I hope you are too, because if you're not, and if you resist this, I think you're going to have a hard time. So it's kind of like, get on board with it. Now is the time to embrace it. Otherwise, there's going to be struggle. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. This is Creative Courage. My name is Matt Essen.